everybody. Welcome to this episode of Disc Golf Answer Man. I am Danny Lindahl. I am here instead of Bobby because Bobby and Robert and Emac are overseas, and I am joined by Anthony, played disc golf in a stadium, Vanden Heuvel.
Yes, I did.
And Coda plays disc golf really well, Hatfield. How's it going, guys? What have y'all been up to? What have you, Anthony? You were in Oklahoma this last weekend.
Both of us were in Oklahoma this weekend, I believe.
Tell us about that. How'd that go?
It was awesome. I was in Tulsa for the 2018 Baskets and Bases. It was the not first ever in a stadium, but it was the first ever Baskets and Bases. It was put on by Basket Case Disc Golf, is just a local shop.
Very cool.
I'm sure you know them.
Yeah, they're a good store.
Yeah, they're super good people, and they put it at the Tulsa Drillers / Roughnecks Stadium.
Awesome.
It was, it's a minor league baseball and soccer team stadium, and they had access to everything. Like when we did the one at Arrowhead, we
Limited.
a little bit, we still had, half the stadium, probably 3/4 of the stadium. I don't know exactly, but they had everything that wasn't like a box suite, which you're not going to want to throw a disc in there anyways because it's 30 feet.
And I feel like there's more freedom at the minor league rather than the major league.
It
Absolutely.
was so cool. They had shots where you're standing on the field and you have to throw up to the second level.
Oh, wow.
The basket's right there. So if you're a foot short, now you're throwing this like weird overhand, like 30 feet up shot. And it was
Just gonna get creative.
super, super cool. Yeah, I've got a highlight video coming out before the end of the week for that.
Look forward to seeing that.
Look for that one, people. What were you doing, Coda? You were also in Oklahoma, probably played disc golf. Probably not at a baseball stadium.
Did not. We actually took it easy this weekend. We need a little downtime. We've been going every weekend somewhere else and kind of slacked on our responsibilities at home. So it was nice to kind of take it easy and just enjoy friends and family.
Nice.
All right.
Nice.
Well, moving on, where Robert and Bobby and everybody are is at the Toonie over in Finland, or
Finland.
We never established this. It's either Finland or Sweden.
It was Finland.
Finland. Okay.
Yes.
Very jealous of that.
That looks like an awesome
Yeah.
course. The videos that have been coming out, it's
Yeah.
incredible. Did we see Barbie's?
Barbie.
He's Barbie now.
Greg Barbie.
Barsby's ace. He got a little flickaroo on a downhill. Was it 312?
Yeah, actually, just
Something like
watched that earlier.
Yeah, that was
Like
pretty
sidearm
sweet.
with like an eagle or something like
Yeah.
that.
Super
Probably.
cool.
Super straight sidearms. Always a tough shot to hit. Cool shot to see.
Absolutely.
There was another ace too, Latitude 64 team member. I'm gonna butcher the name.
Go ahead.
It was Kristen Tatar. That's so not even probably close to how it is.
It's probably just where you put the H's. It's probably like Tatar or
Well,
something.
no, I think it's Tattar, something with like the
Oh,
umlauts
the
or whatever.
umlaut. Okay.
Something, yeah.
It's a crapshoot at that point.
She was, I think she finished second, which is amazing for like a 910 rated golfer.
Wow.
She beat Paige, she beat Vanessa, she beat some really good golfers.
That's no small feat.
No, not at all. But the very first day she hit an ace too with a Lucid Defender.
Nice.
So,
Great
It's
disc.
a good shot. Well, should we go ahead and jump into the questions?
I think we could do
We
that.
can. If you watched last week's, I was trying to run the camera switching and run the show and also answer the questions, and that was too much. So this week, Anthony is going to be asking the questions, and I'll be focusing on just talking and switching the cameras. So let's jump over to Anthony. What's the first couple
Alright,
questions we
our
got here?
First question comes from Kyle. And he says, I'm a newer player and I would like to get my bag dialed in for the summer. I currently carry a Fusion Thief that flies very straight for me. What disc would you recommend if I'd like to get something a little faster than that with about the same flight path? And then he says, maybe slightly more stable. So Coda, have you thrown the Thief much? Do you have?
I have not, but I have seen people that do throw it.
Okay.
I would say maybe something that might be similar to that would be like a hatchet.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly the stag here if you're looking for something a little bit more stable.
Yeah, I was going to suggest a stag.
Yep.
The stag or an escape.
Yeah.
Because I know the escape is if you have decent power behind it, it's the same hyzer flip. And the thing
Gotcha.
about the Thief is it catches right at the end. I haven't thrown a hatchet in a while, but my hatchet would flip over and hold it like
Gotcha.
it was a roller. And the Thief will do that if you don't throw it high. But
For
if you
sure.
give it air, it'll come back.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is the escape not more stable, or would you say like a bio escape or something?
Yeah, escape is more stable for sure. Did he say more stable or?
He said He said possibly more stable.
Oh, possibly more stable.
Yeah,
Okay,
'cause
so I would.
I'm assuming that way he means like if he gets a convict, he could beat it up to fly the same, just faster.
Okay, yeah.
Which I'm a firm believer in. I don't like the way, like, I want to beat my disc into the way I want it to fly. I don't want it to perfectly just come off the shelf flying the way I like it,
Yeah.
because it's not going to stay that way.
And you mentioned before we were live, or before we recorded, when we were live, you were talking about how you like to keep your bag fairly simple
I do.
and have one mold and have 3 versions of it. Kind
Yes.
of
Like,
overstable, straight.
absolutely, to overstable. So I like, usually my understable one is something that I've had in my bag for a long time, and so I've used it, abused it, seasoned, if you may. And then I have one that's a little bit newer than that, and then I'd like to keep a brand new one for any headwind situations, or if I need a little bit more stableness out of that disc. But yeah, I like to keep my bag simple and have multiples of each disc.
So you probably, is there a hatchet in your bag?
There's not a
No,
hatchet in my
okay.
bag.
Okay. That would be tough for a hatchet to fly overstable. for you, but-
Absolutely.
There's lots of people who want to have that setup. They want to have just like one mold for all of their discs, but they're not sure how to start it. So do you start with understable discs and then just take them out as you get more overstable discs, or how does that whole process like develop?
Usually, I'd say that it's backwards of that. So I'll take it, use it, try to beat it up, and then I'll keep one that's freshly new, and then keep that process going. And so I just keep, as it gets too understable, I'll filter that one out, put the mid in, then put a new one in. So
Awesome. We got a next question, Anthony?
We sure do. This is from Jared. And he says, in a tournament, if I'm not throwing first and my other card mates throw bad shots, I feel seeing those bad shots leads to myself throwing a poor shot. Do you have any tips to alleviate this problem?
Laugh at them.
Absolutely. It's this thing where you're just like, oh, look at that pretty butterfly over there, and don't watch people throw if you get influenced by that.
Okay. What would you say? Sorry, the rules, you have to help people look for discs if they lose them. Is there any sort of overlap there?
This is true. Like, I mean, I like to, like, as they're throwing, I don't necessarily watch their initial shot. I let them throw, and then I just kind of try to watch where their disc ends, per se. Like,
where it finishes.
I don't like to be influenced by others.
Yeah.
I think you should throw what you know. They throw differently than you. They're throwing different discs than you. So just know your game, play your game, and don't be influenced by others.
Awesome.
Is that something that you, because you said you don't like to watch other people, is that something that you noticed in yourself, or is that just a...
Absolutely. Like, I noticed, like, if I am last on the box, I know what I want to throw, but I watch somebody else get a wind gust, or they try something different, try a big ante, and I get influenced by that, try that, and more times than not, I get bad results from that.
I think everybody's done that at some point too. Like you got your sidearm ready, you're lining up the sidearm, and then somebody peers it with like a turnover. Oh, that's easy.
Like, I can do that too.
Square up.
Where's my helmet?
Yep. Easy bogey. What about you, Danny? Would you agree with that? Do you have any other tips?
I'll try and watch people's shots just to know what the wind is doing. Like if I know their bag and I've played with them before,
absolutely.
But otherwise, not really.
Yeah.
I know my game, but I watch the shot to know the wind. That's probably about it.
Yeah, I think that's all pretty good. I'm trying to think for myself. I'm not really, kind of like what you guys said, I'm not really focused on other people. Like,
absolutely.
Sometimes, if I see somebody throw, we'll say, for example, a felon, and it flips over and they're expecting it to hyzer out or something, and I have a felon in my hand, then maybe I'll be like, oh, wait, I know his felon's pretty overstable, so maybe I'm going to step up to my criminal or something.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I think it's just a lot of stick with what you know.
Absolutely.
You
should know your disc. You should know how they fly into a headwind.
Exactly.
Into this wind, into this wind. So trust yourself.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Our next question comes from James. And he says, although I'm over 100 rating points away from the 1,000 rating mark. Makes 2 of us. We're not going to talk about that. I was curious what the biggest things that helped those of you that are or have been, and then in parentheses he says, Robert, 1,000 rated. Was it mental game, distance, putting, or something else? It looks like he has another question there. So really quickly, we'll jump over to the one of us who's never been 1,000 rated, and that's Coda. No, Coda is the only one here who is 1,000 rated, and no offense to Danny, but I feel like Coda is going to stay 1,000 rated a lot longer than either of us could ever hope to get there. So, Coda, what is the biggest thing that helped you get to and stay over 1,000 rating?
Honestly, I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of everything note that he mentioned. I mean, it's a big part of putting, middle game, distance, consistency. Consistency in the mental game is the biggest thing that ever helped me get over 1,000 rated. So learning how to handle tournament situations, being able to have the mental capacity of having faith in myself, believing in my game is huge. And that's where I think practicing and building routines, that way every time you're doing anything, you're following your routine over and over and over, helps with consistency, which helps with your mental game, which helps you get 1,000 rated.
And for those wondering, Coda's been over 1,000 rated for over a year now.
Yeah.
You were first 1,000 rated in, was it 2013? I saw, or-
My first 1,000 rating, I would say, was probably like 2005.
Oh, yeah, you were up to 1019 in 2012,
Yeah.
and then the last time you were 1,000 rated was 2013, and you just got back.
And you said you took a few
March.
years off.
Yeah,
kinda-
I injured my knee really bad,
Hmm.
and that's when my rating went down.
That'll do it.
That's
And my tournament play went out the window pretty much, and I just had to take a break from it.
Yeah,
and,
you've
and
gotta-
get my body good, and then reapproach it. So it's kind of like riding a bike, you know. It's slow at
Mhm.
first, but you get the hang
I
of it
think
again.
I've heard that excuse on this show before.
Bobby's always talking. He says if your body's in pain, it's a sign that you need to stop, not a sign that
Absolutely.
you need to push through it.
Mhm.
And
I
then-
mean, pushing through it just can create more damage, and if you want to keep playing this sport, that's just a bad idea.
So Danny, you're what are you 972 right now?
Mhm.
So you have a shot at 1,000 rating. What is the thing that what is one change that you think you could make or one improvement that you could make to get you there? Is it putting? Is it mental game, consistency?
probably putting.
Putting?
I'm
Okay.
I just need to practice more. I get in this idea, like in backhand form, I'm always tweaking something. I'm always trying to change something to add power, add consistency, get my shot straighter or something like that. And generally that works good because there's like a defined way to throw a correct backhand. And most people who throw far are throwing it pretty much the exact same way.
Mhm.
But there's not a defined perfect way to putt.
This is true.
Everybody who putts is different. If you watch you watch somebody's silhouette and they have no like defining features, but you watch their stroke, you know who that is.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the perfect stroke is for putting. So the solution to that is just practice my stroke
Mm-hmm.
and get that set in. I'm working towards there. I'm getting a little bit more consistent with that putting, but
Nice.
it's that's where I think the line is for me.
Okay. So the second half of that question, I think his name was James, says, also, what were some rating plateaus that you had to get over, and how long were you playing before reaching the 1,000 rating mark? Thanks for any help and advice in achieving my lifelong rating goal. So, Coda, was there any? I mean, you started a while ago, and it looks like you got to 1,000 rated pretty quickly.
Pretty quickly, yes.
You became a member in
in-
2003. Your first rating was 970.
Yes.
So you didn't have to climb far.
No, I played advanced for a year, and by the time I moved out of advanced after that year, I was almost 1,000. I believe I was like 996.
Had you been playing for a while before?
Yes.
Okay.
Like I started my first time ever touching a disc. I was 4 years old. So
wow.
we wouldn't play like a lot, but we would go play 3 to 8 times a year until I was probably like 13, and then at that time, I feel like I started getting like growth spurts, could throw a little further, had more interest in it, and it just became my passion at that point.
Okay. So it looks like you were up to 1,000 pretty quick, and then it kind of dipped back down in 2013, all the way like Danny was talking about until 2017. You were kind of in the like 970s to 990 rating.
Yeah.
Go
ahead.
What'd you do from then until last year when you jumped back over 1,000?
Prior, like once my rating started dropping, that was whenever I kind of was going through different bodily injuries, and I wasn't playing much casual golf, but I was still trying to play tournaments,
Mhm.
and that just crushed my rating. And then just putting in the work, putting in the effort, slowly helped me just slowly build.
So your tip to get through rating plateaus: stop playing bad.
Absolutely. And I mean,
That's good.
Just
advice.
keep
it's one of those things like you have to learn from. Ask yourself why. Like after a round, what did I do wrong? Why did I shoot like this? Like what's the reason why I did this? Was it my putting? Am I just throwing horrible upshots? Generally people make the same mistakes and they do it over and over and over.
Mhm.
And I think that's will help. I mean, really analyze your game, look at your rounds, and see where you can improve.
What about you, Danny?
I think being willing to change is a big part of that. Is if you're playing the same way and you never change anything, you can't expect to play any better.
Absolutely.
So it's going to be like an initial hit on your skill level. But if you say you have a bad reach back and you're trying to play better at tournaments, rather than just trying to play better with a bad reach back, you should fix the reach back and then also try and play better.
Absolutely.
So that's what I think is not being complacent, not being stuck in your game.
Yes.
Nice. Our next question is Erland, and then he says Alan from Norway, and this is an interesting one.
Oh, is this the putting one?
No, we can get to that one later.
Okay.
This one is interesting. I like this one, but it's an interesting question. He says, "Hey guys, thanks for the great show. I love listening to your podcasts. I have a question about forfeiting a hole. If I am really having trouble during a hole and it looks like I'm going to score at least par +4, maybe worse, am I allowed to avoid throwing for 30 seconds, take my par +4 penalty instead of risking the higher score on the hole?"
No.
Is it once you forfeit?
Once you start the round, you must complete the round or you're done.
You can DNF and like quit the whole thing and quit the tournament, but you can't, like the par +4 is for if you're
late.
If you're late or if you skipped a hole in your thing. It's for holes that you didn't play, but you you played holes after them.
Yes.
But you can't just, then nobody would ever take worse than par +4.
No. And I don't think, I've never, obviously there's some situations where it's happened, like Ledgestone a few years ago where they had the stroke and distance OBs and stuff like that. It happened. But I've never been to a hole where, even if it's a par 5, I've never been like, I couldn't just jump putt my way to a 9. You know? Like, if you're in a situation where you're walking up to a hole expecting best case scenario is a quadruple bogey, I think you're probably playing that hole wrong.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like,
or you're just approaching it wrong and just mentally in general if you just want to succumb to take par +4.
And even if you think, if I play this hole perfectly and I get par +4, odds are that's the same thing for everyone else too.
Yes.
You know, you're not walking up to a hole thinking I'm getting a quadruple bogey while the guy in your card is like, easy birdie, I got this. Like there's not a hole out there that exists like that. So I think you're coming at it from a wrong standpoint mentally.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But to directly answer the question, no, you can't do that. Matt wants to know, it looks like a question about the getaway. He says, "Hey guys, I've heard on a few occasions Robert and other people from DD refer to the new getaway like an Escape Pro. This makes me wonder, was there any consideration put into calling it an Escape Pro? What makes the Saint Pro or Ballista Pro a pro mold and others a newly titled disc? Is this something DD avoids while Latitude leans into it? At the end of the day, their flight is all that really matters, but I just thought some behind-the-scenes insights might be cool to hear about."
The Pro is more of a Latitude thing, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of their naming scheme. Kind of how they have Opto, we have Lucid.
They have Pro, you guys have X.
There you go.
I think the idea behind the Saint Pro and the Saint or the Ballista Pro and the Ballista is that for the pros, the Ballista Pro will fly like a Ballista does for a more average arm speed. Like for most people, if they go ahead and grab a Ballista Pro, it's going to be fairly overstable for them. But if you have a bigger arm, you can get some flip out of it. It'll glide to the right and come back. Whereas a Ballista for most people is going to be that flip over, glide a little bit and come back. So when you watch like a Pro's in the bag and they say, I love my Saint Pro and I love my Ballista, if the average player goes and grabs a Saint and a Ballista, I said Ballista the first time, I meant Ballista Pro, a Saint Pro and a Ballista Pro, you grab a Saint and a Ballista, they should fly more or less the same, just scaled back on the distance. And the getaway, that's like DD just calls all their discs different names because we don't have them.
But I heard there was actually some thought put into it, and the EMAC Truth was possibly going to be named the Truth Pro, but they left it as a Latitude thing, and that's why Getaway and Escape, if you think about getting away and escaping, they're kind of a similar word. They kind of mean similar things.
So like the AMs can escape, but the getaway can actually escape and get away.
Yeah, exactly.
I see what you're saying.
They're not just escaping; they actually get away. Yeah, that's definitely what it was. All right, so Michael, we have one more question here from Michael. This one is about putting. He says, I've been golfing for roughly 5 years now. In the last 2 years, my putting game has come a long way. Now, my question is, how do I bring what I've practiced to the course? I can hit 25-foot putts all around the practice basket all day before casual or tournament rounds. But when I get to my actual round, I'm lucky to hit a 15-foot putt. I'm sure most other people have experienced the same thing, regardless of if it's putting or driving. Thanks for your input. So, Coda, you have played probably more tournaments than Danny and I combined.
Absolutely.
What is it that you do to translate your practice putting or warm up putting to the actual 18 putts that you're trying to make during your round?
For sure. Practicing in the backyard and practicing is all fine and dandy, but it changes once they blow that 2-minute horn and more competitive play. The more competitive golf you play, the better you're going to get at handling it and dealing with the pressure and relaxing, and then to where you can actually get to where you have the same routine as just as easy as in your backyard. So I would play more competitive golf.
So just kind of it's
I-
just going to come with experience.
Yes, I mean, I feel like that is the best practice for me.
And it's a lot about routine too, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Robert will talk about a lot. He says if you're in the backyard and you're putting and you're just throwing putts over and over and over again, and you're not, you're getting your stroke grooved in, but you're not practicing like it would be at a tournament. Robert likes to recommend putting down a mini and practicing like it's a tournament putt. If you can get in your head like the bottom of the ninth,
Yes.
bases loaded type mentality in your practice putting, that's going to translate better to your tournament putting.
For sure.
My problem is I missed that putt in practice. So
Like practice the way you play.
mhm.
Yeah. And I have
Basically.
noticed too, I've played semi-competitive rounds with Robert, and I've seen him at tournaments and things like that. And even warming up too, he'll go out to the putting green, throw a putt, probably make it, and then he walks away to a new spot and he does the same thing again. Because if you're standing there and you throw a putt, okay, now you know that putt, you feel that putt. If you
Doing
miss it,
muscle memory at that
exactly, you're not really. I mean, you're still getting something from it, but if you move to a new spot, or if you change to a straddle putt or a pitch putt or something like that, you're changing variables up. So it's a new putt every time, and you're getting more from that.
Absolutely.
I think that's really important.
All right, let's take a little bit of a break from the questions, and we'll talk some about the Minnesota Majestic was, I guess, a big tournament that happened last weekend.
A little bit.
A little bit of a big tournament. Have you ever played Blue Ribbon Pines?
I have.
It's a fun course, isn't
It's a
it?
great course. All those courses that they play in that are beautiful and wonderful.
They played a 24-hole layout, but they have 27 up there, and there was a lot of big names there. I saw like Garrett Gerthy, lots of big, and Alex Russell ended up taking it down.
Right on.
Alex Russell's a Team Latitude 64 player. He's been on the team for a few years now, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Out
He's,
of Washington, Oregon,
Washington?
somewhere up there.
Somewhere over
I
there.
don't think I've ever played golf with him.
All right.
He's good.
Well, he's a nice guy. He's really good, and he took down a big win. Is it A tier?
Yeah.
Yeah.
With 84 pros.
Wow.
Lots.
Lots of good golf up there.
There was also
Always a big tournament.
Yeah. James Proctor, another Latitude guy, finished in 6th. AJ Risley and Jordan Castro, both on Team DD, tied for 11th. Jake Lauber got 14th. So there were some really good finishes up there. Kale LaVisca shot, what was it? I remember he shot a super hot final round. Yeah, he shot 10.55
Ooh.
the last round to jump up into second place.
Wow.
What's your highest rated round? Do you know?
1096.
Oh my goodness.
What was that? Where?
It was in Louisville. I shot a 14 under, and I think the next best score was 2.
Oh my gosh. What the heck?
Wind golf.
Yeah. I guess if you're from Oklahoma, you know how to put it down.
That course can get ripping too. Once you get, what is it, hole 7, where you throw the hyzer
Yeah,
out over the water. Yeah.
Scary.
I remember we were down there. We filmed you at the winter warm up, you and Eric Oakley and some other people, and it was, 30-mile-an-hour winds
Yes.
off the lake, and it was
It
just
just gets treacherous. It's never know what's going to happen.
no. It
That's
was just
insane.
people were aiming, 45 degrees out over the water,
Yes.
throwing something on a hyzer, and it just pushed
Still
back.
blowing left.
Yeah. Yeah, that was crazy. And then on the FPO side, really quick, we did have Paige Bjerkes come in at 6th place.
Nice.
So very solid finish for her. She's been tearing it up.
Yeah, she's been playing well.
She's been doing really, really well. I don't know what her next event is. Let's see if we can find that out real quick. Her next one is the Great Lakes Open.
No, it's over in Michigan.
Yes.
Yes.
She will be back here for Junior Worlds, though.
Oh, cool.
So I think she might be taking a little bit of a break and then going back, hitting the road,
Very cool.
hitting the tour. What's your next tournament, Coda?
My next tournament is this weekend in McAllister, Oklahoma. It's the Buffalo Chip, and it'll be presented by Dynamic Disc.
Fun.
Hey, I know those guys.
They're all right. All right, so we've got Coda here. Let's talk about some discs. We've got a couple questions on the chat and YouTube, and then we'll just talk about some of your favorite discs.
Okay.
So we'll start with the questions here from the chat though. Somebody says Insane Ninja says needs a good overstable exist. A good overstable disc. And it sounds like he wants something really, really overstable. So what would you recommend for that shot?
Man, I would honestly recommend throwing an Audi. I mean, that's just it's not a super fast disc, but it's just the most overstable, controllable disc that I have in my bag. If you're wanting something a little faster than that, I would recommend using the Warhorse, which is just, like we said earlier, the most overstable disc that we make. So that would be my best advice for you.
Great stuff. My experience with the Warhorse is I was throwing it for a review, and I threw it on more than 45 degrees of Anheuser, full power, and it faded out and skipped.
It's amazing.
Insane. It's
very insane.
I've never thrown a disc that stable.
I love it, and I get more distance out of it into a headwind than I do anything.
It's like it's not for mortals.
Yeah,
it's
weird.
For the next level. All right. Another question is talk about your putter. He says you putt with a bit of an interesting putter. What is your putter?
My putter is the Caltrop, which I'm actually in transition right now, switching to the BT Hard Crowns.
Okay.
But Caltrop, I love it. We live in a windy area. It's an overstable putter, and no matter what the conditions were, I could trust it.
How do you deal with that like rim on it though?
Man, it really doesn't affect me. I don't even really feel like I'm touching it. I don't really feel like I ever really feel it. So I was always in my early years of playing, like, never imagined myself ever putting with a thumb track disc. But once I started using it, I loved it, and yeah, it's a great disc.
And for those of you who don't know, the Caltrop has like a putter with like a raised rim around the outside. So the rim of it fills your hand more than like a regular putter, but the flight plate is still where you would expect it to be. So it has a little bit of like a ridge around the outside, and it's great for throwing. It gives a little bit of a different feel, but it's apparently also really good for putting.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. The other question was, we have two more here. Why don't more pros throw 14 or 15 speed discs other than the Ballista Pro?
15 speed?
50. The Michelin and Rakuten.
Really?
Yeah.
Goodness.
Aren't they 15? Yeah. Because they yeah.
Personally, my personal, with fast discs like that, you tend to lose accuracy a little bit. And with being something that fast, those discs tend to be a little bit nose sensitive, and which you can really hurt your accuracy there. So, I mean, if you have it nose down, they can tend to be less stable. You get it nose up, it's going to be very overstable. So I like to throw a little bit slower discs.
Yeah, I always say if you're working on trying to add more power or get a little bit more accuracy, and you're trying to improve your game, I always try and throw the slowest disc that I can comfortably reach a hole with. So when I started out, there's a hole. Have you played in Little Rock ever?
I have.
So Burns Blue Hole 1.
Absolutely. Yes.
Started out, I would throw my most overstable distance driver there and smash it as hard as I could in the short left position.
Got you. Yes.
Right. It's just a hyzer through the woods. It's like 350, 360
Probably.
maybe. Yeah. And I would throw like a really overstable driver on it. And then eventually I could throw my fairway driver. And so rather than just continuing to throw that distance driver and being comfortable with that shot, maybe not in a tournament, but in a casual round, I would throw that fairway driver so I could get comfortable with that shot and add more power there. And eventually I could throw a mid-range there. And it sort of, it forces you to get more comfortable with more power, and that grows and stretches your range. Do you think, do you agree with that philosophy? Or?
I do agree with that. 100%. And it's
Awesome.
one of those things where I think the glide of a fairway driver kind of gives a false perception of speed. So you can still get that distance out of a fairway driver that pretty close to what you can actually get from a Speed 14 disc.
For sure. All right. Ryan has a question. He says, how do you shake off a double or triple bogey?
Man, you just
Coda doesn't get bogeys.
Oh,
he just gets bogeys.
You just don't get 'em.
I've had my fair share of some 9s and 8s and all
What's
that
the
good
biggest
stuff.
number you've taken?
The biggest number I've taken is an 11.
I don't mean to bring back like memories.
It was
or
like
anything.
a triple circle 11,
Like a pig
Ooh.
nose?
something like
Isn't
that.
that what people call those?
I
It
had
was
a,
bad. I think it's when you take a number like that, it's okay to get a little mad. I think you should show emotion, but you do it and you let go of it. And once that hole's done, it's done. So dwelling on it is only gonna make a snowball effect. So I think you
Mhm.
show your emotion, get done with it, and put it behind you,
Yeah,
and move on.
Be in a good mental state by the next hole is
Absolutely,
really
you have
what's
to let
key.
it go. I mean, you can't hold on to stuff like that, or like I said, it's just going to snowball and get worse and worse and worse, and your confidence is gonna go right out the window.
Mhm.
For sure. All right.
We do have a couple questions from Facebook.
We
If you
do.
want to take those.
All right, we'll jump to those and we'll come back to the ones in the YouTube chat.
All right. Steven wants to know what the best mid range is in the Westside lineup.
The best mid range.
Best.
Man, that's just hard. I think we have overstable, we have understable, so I feel like it's just a preference of what you like.
Try one of each, like an overstable,
Like
a
for me,
straight, and
my
an
most
understable.
overstable that I love is the anvil. The more straight that I love is the warship, and then I would say for understable I would say is a fuse.
Fuse, all right.
Okay.
Fuse is a good disc. I know a lot of people like that one.
Yeah.
One year we had the was it David or Thomas that was talking at the, you probably don't remember this, at the GBO players meeting, like the Q&A. They were talking about what was the favorite disc that he ever designed. I think it was Thomas.
He's the one that designed it.
Yeah, and he said the Fuse was his favorite disc just because of the design process and the shape of it. So
Very
That's
interesting.
it's a pretty good frisbee.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good disc.
It's
Mhm.
not bad. Alex wanted to know when you'll put out an In the Bag. Alex, we're actually going to film that when we're done filming this.
Yes.
So, like we talked about, I think it was before we started recording. That'll be out within the future.
The
Okay.
future sometime.
Soon, but I don't want to put a date on it just with Junior Worlds and
We're
everything like
always
that.
working on
So
something.
soon.
Always working on something.
Finally got to drop that. I've been waiting.
Matthias wants to know, he says, I throw a hatchet, but it got too understable for me. What would be a good recommendation for a disc in the Westside lineup to step up to?
Like we said earlier, I think you should try that stag.
Okay.
I really do.
Which plastic? VIP?
I
just
really
of that?
honestly feel like it's just a preference of what plastic that you like.
Okay. Do you notice much difference or
I mean,
between
unless
Westside
you were
and
to
Turner?
get like a lesser plastic, I really don't think you're gonna get much difference.
Okay. This one's interesting. Levi wants to know what the biggest difference between an AM and a pro is, and I'm going to assume he doesn't mean their score. So, like, what's the biggest thing
I
from?
think like how they carry themselves on the course or putting or attitude.
Yeah.
Man, just the that's a good question.
It's a hard question.
Yeah, because I don't know if there really is one thing.
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like AMs are a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more. You're just out here to have fun on tournaments. When pros are, we're our mental games there. We're focused, and we're there to compete. Obviously you still want to enjoy yourself, but at the end of the day, we're there to compete and try to win.
Trying to get that gas money.
Get that money.
I think the bigger difference is almost between a rec player and an advanced player. It's because the rec players
Absolutely.
are going to be your party card, you guys who
Yeah.
are goofing off and maybe don't know the rules or maybe don't call the
Absolutely.
rules. And the advanced players are going to be taking it more seriously. There's not that big of a skill jump between an intermediate player and an advanced player. It's more in how you how seriously you take the game and how you carry yourself.
For sure.
Stuff like that. That's why I
Alright.
still play rec.
We've got two more
Pro
from
rec.
Wait a minute. We've got two more from Facebook. One of them is like an actual disc golf question,
Okay.
and the other one is a really serious one. So we'll start off with that one. It says, tacos, cheeseburgers, pizza. What's your go-to food?
Tacos.
Really?
Is it Tuesday yet?
Actually, it is Tuesday, conveniently.
So tacos, obviously it's disc golf answer, man. I'm just going to ask you about Torchies, what your opinion is.
I like torchies. I do.
Okay.
All right.
You're allowed to stay.
I've only ate it a couple times, but I enjoyed it every time I've ate it.
I also have only eaten it a couple times in the past 3 days.
That's funny.
Well, what about you, Anthony? You what is it? Tacos?
Of those three,
burgers.
tacos, cheeseburger, and pizza.
Oh, pizza.
I gotta go.
Look
I
like
mean-
a pizza guy to me.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I gotta go with pizza, and not just pizza. It has to be deep dish pizza.
Oh,
That's my jam.
That's the good stuff.
I eat peanut butter and deep dish pizza sandwiches all the time.
Oh my goodness.
No.
No, like I had to fill out the staff page. They just
Mhm.
added me to the staff page on the DD thing, and they said pick your favorite restaurant. And I scrolled through, and everyone's like Radius, 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 Radius. And Radius is good food, right? If I'm trying to go get good food,
Very.
I'm gonna go to Radius. But for when I'm like craving, and I get that craving satisfied, it's almost always Domino's.
I like
Almost
some
always.
Domino's.
Oh, I gotta
Really?
get some pizza. I haven't eaten in 3 days. It feels like I'm just gonna get some pizza and show that pizza a good time. And it's always gonna be Domino's.
All right. So the last one, it's actually a disc golf question. It says, "What's your routine before going into a round, and how much does it change depending on tee times?"
Tee times, I like to just get out there early, and I like to putt, and for probably throw the disc around try every putt for at least an hour. In regular tournament play, I usually try to limit myself to warming up at around an hour. I'll putt for 20-30 minutes of that, and then I'll work on upshots for about 15 minutes, and then I'll throw like power shots for about 15
Really?
minutes or so.
What do you do outside of tournaments? Because obviously, if you're from Oklahoma, it gets hot, humid, windy. Fatigue could start setting in.
Absolutely.
If you play for an hour before your 3-hour round, now that's 4 hours of disc golf. Do you exercise outside of disc golf? Do you go for runs?
I do not. We just play a lot of disc golf. So I try to keep that endurance up.
Get them calves.
The heat definitely it plays a big role in your energy level. So keeping your energy level high, staying hydrated, taking care of yourself. You got to eat, obviously. But yeah, jump in the pool as much as possible in our backyard, and
There you go.
yeah,
Awesome.
get our dominoes.
He said there's a question on YouTube real quick, and then we'll jump over to some of your favorite discs. I just completely lost the question. I use the World for my main distance driver out to about 475 comfortably. Am I hurting my game by throwing such a high speed? I didn't read that question first. No, you're perfectly throwing that disc if it's going 475 on you on a World.
Absolutely.
A World might be a little bit understable, don't you
Yeah,
think? Or
I've actually thrown some that seem to have zero glide and are super overstable.
oh, okay,
Really?
Like the ones that are super flat tend to be very, very overstable.
wow, that sounds awesome. All right, so Coda, what are some of your favorite discs? If you had to play around with like like East, let's say, and you had to play with a driver, a mid, a driving putter, and a putting putter, what would your top 4 discs be?
Man, I would use this catapult right here. I can pretty much do anything. I can throw sidearm. I can throw backhand. I can make it Annie. I can make it hyzer. For the overstable disc, I would use an Audi. I love that disc. I can do everything the same way that I just said with that, but it's super controllable. I can throw overhand shots. My putting putter, since I'm switching over to it, I'd be using the BT Hard Crown. And then for the throwing putter is a crown also, and it's in the VIP plastic.
Okay, how are those VIP crowns? Are they pretty stable?
They are pretty stable.
Nice.
It amazes me how much power it can take and how fast it is and how
Nice.
controllable it is. It's a newer disc in my bag, but yeah, it's staying there. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard good things about the crown. I've seen some people jamming
So
some putts.
that would be the 4 discs. If I was
4
to
discs.
choose between those, that's what I would use.
Nice. Awesome. All right. Well, should we jump back into the questions?
We do have one here, and this one's actually perfect for. I'm going to say it's perfect for us, but it's really perfect for you guys. He says, "Hey DGAM crew, first I want to thank you guys and Paige for signing my Answer Man Dimax disc in April. So you're welcome. It was definitely us." And he has, I have some disc. Excuse me. I have some disc comparisons for you. First up, we'll do these separately. He says, first the Convict versus the Getaway. How do they compare? Danny, you are Mr. Getaway. How do the Convict and the Getaway compare?
So out of the box, I would say the Convict is a little bit straighter than the Getaway. The Convict will flip up to flat a little bit easier and fade just a little bit later. The Convict is great for those shots that you want to like hold a hyzer or maybe like a tunnel shot, a dead straight shot. But as the Convict seasons in, it tends to get a little bit quicker to that understable side. But the Getaway, I would say, is more stable out of the box. It doesn't have as much turn and it has more fade. It's generally domier. The Getaway is just a domier mold than the Convict, so it's going to be a little bit farther flying. And It's not as good as at the straight shot, but for like big hyzers or big anhyzers, the Getaway is going to be a little bit better suited to that. So if you're looking for a straight shot, the Convict is going to be what you're going for. But if you're looking for a farther flying, maybe an overstable hyzer shot that'll work in to be that straight shot a little bit later on, then you're going to be wanting the Getaway.
Perfect. And then Coda, this one, we were talking earlier about this disc, so I know you throw it. I know you like it. He says, I throw the Special Edition Explorer, and I love it. When I tell my friends what the numbers are, they just say, oh, it's basically a T-Bird then. I know Robert used to throw the T-Birds. How would you compare these two? Do you have experience with T-Birds?
I do. I was sponsored by Innova for a long time, and the T-Bird was my go-to disc. These are pretty similar. I would say that the Explorer just flies further. I mean, it surprises me how far I can throw it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can birdie holes that are 450 feet with my Explorer. I can birdie holes that are 230 feet with my Explorer. So I do feel like they're very similar discs. So if you do happen to like T-Birds and you want to look for something that's way better, you try an Explorer.
Yeah, I think you nailed it. I think they are similar. They're both straight to kind of slightly overstable fairways, but I think the Explorer is
just goes further.
It's farther. Yeah.
It amazes me. Like I'll throw it on certain holes and I'll be like, yeah, that's perfect. And then I'm like, oh, stop flying. Stop flying.
Not that far.
But yeah, great disc. If you have never tried one, try it.
Mm-hmm. And
Also,
you throw.
Getaway.
Also,
Get away.
I'm working on that
I
disc.
sound like a ghost, like, get away.
What plastic Explorers? Sorry if you said it earlier. What plastic Explorers do you throw in your
I
bag?
throw the Special Edition. I also have a hybrid that I'm going to be putting in. And I throw the Gold line, which is more stable.
Very cool.
All of those to me.
Very cool. So we've got a question here from Andy and Danny. This one is specifically for you.
Oh boy.
So get ready.
Oh boy.
He says, Danny, help. This may be a ridiculous question. When I'm throwing an approach putter shot just outside jump putt range, every once in a while my index finger catches on the lip of the disc and I pull the shot way off to the right. I don't know how it happens. Could it be my grip, follow through, or lack of follow through? Maybe I'm not fully committed to the shot. Does this happen to anyone else? Thanks a lot, DGAM fam. And I just want to say, yes, this happens to other people. Look up the Paul Ulibarri monkey paw video. It is one of the best things on the internet. Danny, you can actually answer.
One of my favorite people to hear describe a monkey paw is Matt Lloyd.
Mm.
Have you ever talked to Matt Lloyd at all?
I have not.
No, you haven't talked to Matt Lloyd.
Goodness.
He's such a good dude, but he has got a sick southern, a thick southern accent. He just tells the best stories about monkey pawing at 90 degrees to the right. Anyway, so throwing an upshot, I'm assuming like 150 feet. Do we have a putter up here? Oh, it's a Warden among all the Westside discs.
It's so pretty.
And you throw in an upshot, it's common to try and power down and then not having the escape velocity to pop out of your hand if you're trying to throw it too soft. My advice at that point is to make sure you're still pulling the disc straight. So a lot of times on upshots, people will tend to just curve the disc and throw like a rainbow in front of them. And that's going to cause the release point to vary based on how tight your grip is. But if you pull it almost like it's a miniature version of your regular throw, like if you just start in front of your right side of your chest here and throw it straight forward from there, the disc isn't going to deviate from that straightforward line. And if you focus on releasing it in line with the shot, sort of in front of your left shoulder rather than in line with, not left shoulder, in front of your right shoulder rather than in line with your right shoulder, that's going to continue it going straight. I have a video on upshots if you want to check that out on my channel, but I pretty much just summarized it, so don't bother anymore. Don't bother. Would you say that's pretty accurate for upshots?
Yeah. I mean, and if it's like something to where it's like he keeps hanging on his finger, maybe trying like a little bit softer of a grip, possibly, or kind of fan it a little bit more instead of clenching down so hard on it. So just experiment with that a little bit and do like what he said. And
exactly. Yeah.
Keep it straight.
Yeah.
All right. We have another one. There's no name. So who wants to pick a name?
John Smith.
John Smith is interesting because it's a woman who asked this question. So
Jane Smith.
Jane Smith. There we go. Jane says, I've been playing for a year, literally exactly a year.
Wow.
This past weekend, I played the largest women's only disc golf tournament and somehow finished first in the intermediate division.
Whoa.
Dang. Everyone keeps saying I have to move up divisions, but I don't feel like I'm actually an intermediate player and closer to rec. I feel I lucked into the win. Do I have to move up divisions, or can I stay in intermediate for a while?
Well, I mean, they make ratings for a reason. So if you're a PDJ member, they do make like ratings caps. So,
Mhm.
you go into different areas. I know because my girlfriend plays in different areas. Like she plays intermediate here. They're like, you should need to play pro. And like it
Mhm.
just I feel like in different areas, like the competition levels are different. So if you think that you should be in that division, you probably should be in that division.
Yeah.
I always say it's when you play badly and you still cash, that's when it's time to move up. I
For sure.
think an outlier and winning a tournament, if you normally finish further down, that's not a reason to move up. I think that's you're in the right division. You want to win. You should try to be doing that and not like, oh no, I don't want to win this tournament, so I have to move up or something like that.
Gotcha.
That should never be a thought in your head. But if you feel like your division isn't pushing you to be better, is not pushing you to improve, then it's probably time to move up. That's what I always use as the marker.
It's a good
Yeah.
marker.
Yep. We have one from Keith, and this one is about hole design and Mandos. He says, "What are your thoughts on artificial man-made Mandos?" Before we get into this, Coda, do you have any experience like designing courses or anything like that?
I mean, I've helped out a little bit, but nothing real major.
Not
But
okay.
you've probably played like a billion courses
Yeah,
though, and that
absolutely.
that helps a lot. Is just knowing what people do around the
Mhm.
country.
Yeah. All right. So it says we have a hole in our local course with a double Mando about 100 feet from the pad, and there's about a 15-foot gap you have to hit. My concern with it is you can miss the one. Wait, hang on. You can miss the one of. I'm guessing he says one. Okay, you can miss one of the Mando trees. It's worded interestingly. You can miss one of the Mando trees and still end up right under the basket. I ran a PDGA event, one round with Mando, one without, and the hole played over par both rounds. The Mando was over half a stroke higher. Does this seem like a good hole based on the info that I've given to you? I'm a little bit confused.
So like,
Absolutely.
let's say it's a par three, and it's got a double. It's a double or triple Mando.
He said double Mando.
A double Mando that's 100 feet off the tee. He didn't say how long the hole was, did he?
Mm-mm.
He didn't say how long. He said it's 100 feet from the tee, and it's a 15-foot gap you have to hit. So I'm guessing the trees are 15 feet apart.
Okay.
100 feet off the tee pad.
Yeah,
Wow.
the basket is somewhere. It can't be too long because he says you can miss one tree and still end up right under the basket.
So let's imagine it's just like a forehand hyzer or something like that.
Sure.
So it's a gap people are going to be shooting anyway.
Yeah.
Or you could like take the hyzer route around everything, but it only let's say it had averaged 3.75
Mm-hmm.
with the Mando. It only averaged 3.25 without. So it's not like it made a huge scoring separation.
Sure. But the part I'm not understanding, he says you can miss one of the Mando trees and still end up right under the basket.
So I think he's saying like,
Does that mean there's no
so
drop
the
zone?
the Mando's there, and then so if you miss it, you're still parked.
But you have to
But
go
you
back to the
still
drop
have
zone.
to play from like I don't know
Okay.
if they're playing like do you just add a stroke or
Yeah,
you,
that's what I'm
like,
saying. I can't think of a time I've played a hole with a Mando that didn't have a drop zone.
No,
No,
he
for
means
sure.
like if your shot misses the Mando, even though you have to go to the drop zone, your
Mhm.
disc that missed the Mando is up underneath the basket. So you don't have to make the Mando to park it, which is, I guess, the way most Mandos are designed.
Yeah. I
So
feel like they're designed like mostly for safety.
Safety
Yeah.
reasons,
Make the hole
yeah.
more challenging.
Which generally when you have Mandos, they tend to are on a hole that's not so good in my
Yeah.
opinion, and it's their way of trying to make it harder.
I'm a little bit confused by that question.
Hmm.
Okay, we'll just change the question a little bit and we'll ask, what are your thoughts on Mandos? Do you like them or
I do if they're in the right scenarios. I've played courses where people go a little bit Mando crazy. And so I'm not a huge fan of that. But I mean, I have played holes to where that makes the hole. But
yeah, there's
so
lots of holes where like the Mando forces you to take a tougher shot, and like a lefty or a righty have a big advantage
absolutely.
over
So
the rest of the field.
not a huge fan of Mandos unless they're there for the right reasons.
okay?
Yeah,
For safety, obviously.
I think that's the way most people are. If it's just if it's a Mando and there's nothing else to make the hole interesting, it's kind of
Bleh.
come on, dude.
I'm
Yeah.
tired of this dude named Mando always telling me which way I have to throw.
You have to go that way. Actually, perfect timing because this next question doesn't have a name, so it's Mando.
Mando, all right.
Mando says, this is a good one for you, Danny. He says, I've been trying to focus on leading with the elbow on my shots recently, and I've noticed that I have a tendency to open my shoulders too quickly, leading to a pulled right shot. Are there any drills or suggestions to fix this annoying form issue? Yes.
Leading with the elbow,
But
and
he's
then
opening his shoulders too early by focusing on that. So are there any form?
usually if you're opening your shoulders too early, that means your elbow is behind. So if your elbow is in front, that means your
Maybe it's
shoulders
like-
are opened at the right time.
But
So
maybe it's like
just a
way in
timing
front?
issue.
Yeah, probably
Like
just a
you're
timing issue,
focusing so much on one thing that you're forgetting to do other things.
or maybe also like a release point thing.
Yeah.
So I'll do two things. First thing is timing. You want to time your reach back so it peaks when your front foot hits the ground. Everybody who throws far does this, whether they think about it or not. Their reach back, their disc hits the peak right when the toe touches the ground. So a great drill to work on that's a one-step drill where you stand with your feet together and then you reach back and reach your foot forward at the same time. So you kind of take that last step. You shorten your shot to just that last step, and you still throw pretty far. You still have a decent amount of power with that shot. And also focusing on releasing the disc in front of your chest or like not in line with your shoulders, off to the left of where that line is, keeping the disc on the same line the whole time. Also, the disc might be, your hand might be slipping to the front of the disc as you're pulling. You want to keep that on the outside, and that should help straighten it out. You can try the one-step drill and maybe like a wall drill if you've ever tried that. It's where you set your feet up a couple inches away from the wall, your back foot more than your front, and then you have the back of your arm not really slide. Watch out for light switches. Just move down that wall, and if any part of your shot is timed incorrectly, it will hit the wall, and so you'll be able to know what parts you need to fix and what parts you need to straighten out.
Anything else, Coda?
I agree with it.
All right. This one is from
Got it right.
Mac Geggy? Jeggy? Something.
Edgy
Mac.
dude.
Mac, he says, this is an odd one. So I threw a shot on about a 450-foot downhill hole, and I was within a foot of acing the hole, but the whole time I thought to myself, please don't hit the basket. Which, have you ever not wanted to ace anything? Have you ever been like, oh, that could go in?
There's
Please
times
don't.
to where maybe it's on a bad green and you're like, don't hit the basket, because if you do hit the basket, it's going to do something crazy and roll, or
Sure.
maybe something in that scenario, I
Something.
guess. But if it's going at the basket, I'm like, hit the
Just
basket.
go in. Yeah.
Go to
Okay.
your home.
So he's about to ace a 450-foot shot and doesn't want to because we'll get into that. He says, my reason for this is because on that drive, I was throwing an old KC Pro plastic and was worried about the disc splitting in half if it hit metal. With that being said, had the disc hit center chains and broke, would it count as an ace if parts of the disc broke and fell through the bottom of the basket?
Well, that being said, you'd have to, they say for PJ rules, if your disc was to break, you play the biggest piece. So if that biggest piece was to remain in the basket, then yes, that would be an ace.
Yeah.
But have you ever
What
been worried about damage to a disc from hitting a basket?
Not necessarily. I mean, I've had putters like on bad baskets where they have like the number plates exposed, like putting huge gashes or stuff like that, but not really worried about my disc breaking.
All right. Man, I couldn't. Yeah.
If your disc is like that brittle and you're so, you
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be throwing
I
it.
don't think I'd be throwing it.
If I've got a
no.
chance to hit the basket, either I want to get in the basket or hit the basket so I don't go past the basket.
Yeah.
Yes.
What would you do if so? Okay, well, it hits the basket, it breaks, and the biggest part doesn't go in. Is that just like
Good birdie.
Yeah. Mark it. Don't break another one.
It could fall through the bottom of the basket
bummer?
and it wouldn't count.
Oh, I would be
Yeah,
real upset.
just quit.
More upset than if I aced without getting into the ace pot. So next question is Brian from Facebook. He says, how does a beginner know when they should move up from mid-ranges and putters to fairways and distance drivers? And then he says, other than just feeling like you're ready, which I feel like he kind of answered his own question. You'll know for sure when you're ready, but what was it for you?
Man, I think it's just a matter of you just practicing with those discs and learning it. And if that's the move you should make, then make it. If you're not comfortable doing it, then stay throwing what you're throwing.
So when I started, I thought I was a big arm from the third day I threw discs. So I started out with like maximum overstable, super fast drivers, and I never really disked down that much. I just sort of used what I was talking about, how you try and throw a slower disc to reach the hole every time. After a couple of years, when I got some sense and stopped throwing max weight, super overstable, everything on every hole. But as far as moving up to the next speed of disc, it's a lot more about nose angle than it is about power. If you can get the nose down on a fast disc, it's gonna fly fairly good, a lot better than it will if it's nose up, because a mid range and a putter forgives that nose up, but the driver won't. So I almost recommend people start out with a fairway. Definitely not a distance driver, and definitely not like a getaway. I would start out with like a Thief or Maverick is also a good one. A Hatchet's another good one. Something that's slow, and if you get the nose down pretty much at any power, it's gonna have turn, because that's gonna teach you. It's gonna force you to get the nose down. So go ahead and grab a fairway driver, I would say, and then when you notice that disc starts flipping more and it becomes uncontrollable, that's when you're gonna want to step up to either a more stable disc or maybe a faster disc. Who knows? And then you'll be able to feel it out better from there.
All right. How are we looking on time, Danny? Do we have time for one more
We've
question?
got time for one more, I'll
One
say.
more? All right. This one comes from Justin, and this one's really interesting. I've never actually thought about it before. He says, what disc in your bag comes in and out the most? The one you keep thinking you can replace, so you take it out, and then mid-round you wish you had it. Rinse and repeat.
Interesting.
Man, I really don't feel like I have that problem.
No?
No.
Has there ever been a time where you were like, I don't need the Bard anymore, and then you took it out, and just for the next couple weeks, you just felt like your game wasn't the same?
No. I mean, I don't know on that one. I don't really change my bag that much based upon courses. The only I might do is put in more, not really take
Take
some
it
out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
What about you, Danny?
I had that experience. I had my favorite beat up EMAC Truth. It's from the 2015 GBO when they released, or was it 16? I think it was 16.
Sure.
2016 GBO they released. It has that stamp on it, and it's my most beat up Lucid EMAC Truth. This thing is great. It's like any angle, it's going right. It's gonna flip any power, everything. Such a good disc, and I lost it here. I lost it. I tried to throw an Anheuser Upshot on 7 at East, and it just faded out and was lost in the woods. Me and Matt looked for it for a while, not in the woods, in the grass. We couldn't find it. So I grabbed another, like a Biofusion EMAC, and I had a couple of beat up discs, and I thought, oh, that they're fine. They'll hyzer flip. They'll take the shot for me. And then Joey Bergman from Kansas City found it, and his dad actually found it, and they mailed it back to me. And then when I started throwing that disc again, it's like a dream. It's like so much better than I remembered it. It's just mind reader, just whatever angles I want, it's going there. So it's that. I guess I did kind of have that example. It wasn't I took it out; it was I lost it. But still, it was that disc is irreplaceable. I never throw it anywhere that I could possibly lose.
I think for me, I think it's the Enforcer, because I used to throw, like, I used to be that guy who had Enforcers, Defenders, Trespass, Sheriff.
Just a million that are the same.
Yeah.
Close to the same.
Yeah, and then I went all Defender, and I just, even my most overstable Defender, because like the pop top ones that are just, I don't know if you've thrown them, the super overstable ones.
Very.
It was more than I wanted. And then just like a stock run wasn't quite enough for, like, I mean, it gets windy up here. You know it too, in Oklahoma, it gets windy. And it just wasn't enough. And so I wanted something a little bit more. And so then I went back to the Enforcer, and I was like, oh, I used to throw these. Why did I ever stop? Like, this is exactly what I wanted a distance driver to be. So yeah, I think mine's the Enforcer, but it wasn't ever like, it was a one-time thing. It was never I took it out, put it back in, took it out, put it back in. It was I took it out because I was dumb, put it back in because I realized I was dumb.
Now you're in love.
And now it's never going anywhere. Exactly.
All right. So I think that's it for
That's
this
it.
episode on Disc Golf Answer Man. Any parting shots? What's your next tournament you're playing, Coda?
My next tournament is this weekend. It's the Buffalo Chip in McAllister, and I can't wait to be there.
It's going to be awesome. What course is it at?
It is Buffalo Run.
Where is
feel
that?
like I've
I
heard of
recognize that
It's
name.
Matt House's course.
Okay. I've never played it, but I've definitely heard of that name. It sounds like a good course.
It's a great course. Lots of diversity. Lots of different pin settings, and it's just a beautiful park. If you've never played it, go check it out.
Sounds awesome.
You will be very happy that you did.
Yeah. And Anthony, you're filming. No, you're not filming. You're playing doubles match play this weekend,
I
right?
do. Myself and Shane Klein, one of our
Yeah.
accountants, we have our match play scheduled for Sunday afternoon at Cottonwood Falls.
That's going to be awesome.
Very
So-
cool.
Doubles
like that
match play
course.
is still available for signups if you are wanting to run an event or if there is one in your area. Sign up for doubles match play and maybe come to Emporia and get $500 just for coming here.
Nah, Shane and I are going to beat him actually.
And also
Sorry.
go home. Do you get $500 travel expenses then?
I
You
would
shouldn't.
Hope so.
You shouldn't.
I have to travel from my apartment.
You should give it to me though. I'll fight you for it.
No.
You'll
If-
probably win.
If I get $500, I will say this on camera. If I get $500, Danny, you can have 5 of them.
oh,
Okay?
all right, I'm pulling for you now.
Deal.
You got it. You got to take it down.
If I don't get $500, you owe me
oh,
$5.
oh, I don't
ho-
like my
I
odds
hope you
there.
have 5. No, I don't like your odds either.
I don't have $5. All right, and me this weekend, I've got a great video coming out next week on my channel. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but it's going to be fun.
It's a good one.
And I think that's all we've got.
I think
Right
so.
on.
All right, so thanks for tuning in. Tune in next week. For the audio listeners, we go live on YouTube on the Dynamic Discs YouTube page at 2 p.m. on Tuesdays.
2 p.m. Central.
Central, yes, but we might not actually go live next week or do anything because of Junior Worlds. It's possible, but watch for that. So stay subscribed so you'll get the notification and come hang out with us. And thanks for listening. But YouTube live chat, stay here because we'll hang out with you.